Hello. One of these just chuck everything in videos. I don't really know where I'm going. I didn't know where I was going yesterday, but I seem to have hit on a bit of a thing with this, what did Ricardo call it? Abusing people with advice. It wasn't particularly me, but yeah, I can, if that's what it is, that's what I do. I sometimes do give advice. Is that abusing people with advice? Or in general, is advice abusing people? I think abuse is calling somebody a fat-ass bastard when you know that they're a fat-ass bastard. That's abuse, which I don't think you'll get many people recommending that. But downgrading, thumb-downing advice, put it this way. Who do you give advice to? This is just an open comment to you. Who do you give advice to? It's normally outside business. What would be termed in newspapers, the ones you love. They're the ones you'll give advice to, isn't it? Maybe people only give advice to the ones they love, because giving advice to other people is too sodding dangerous by the look of it. Anything else we want to do? I'll just pick out this one. Isn't advice just one person's truth as they see it? Well, yeah. That's what's interesting about it, to find out what other people's truths are. You know, you don't have to accept it as they were, as it's said. You just listen. It could be that everyone's just too busy, or too scared, or too feeling oppressed by modern life, or never really grew into an adult that feels comfortable in themselves, that just that. And advice always seems like a threat. Whatever. It just so happened that my Twitter account, I got these two charts from Our World in Data, and it goes from 1975 up to the present day, and it's for men and women, and I'll just do both charts are slightly different, but very, very, very much the same. It looks like 1975, we've got underweight people, healthy weight people, and fat asses. 75, there were about 15% underweight, and that's gone down to single figures. And I think this is the world. So I think what we're probably talking about is people starving there as well as catwalk models. Catwalk models and the starving are now down to single figures. Healthy, great lot of people, but the overweight has gone from 20% to 40%. Now, that was men, 20 to 40%, and women have gone from 21% to 40%. Pretty similar. So, as I say, they were pretty similar charts. So, obesity, being overweight, has gone from 20% of the world to 40% of the world. Right. Now, here's not advice, a bit of mysticism. If by 25 you're a bit overweight, give it your last effort of fighting it, and you're probably going to lose. So accept the fact that you're going to be overweight / fat for the rest of your life. Don't upset yourself with it. Don't go on diets or anything. Don't abuse it, but just don't bother, because you're going to lose. If you're a bit overweight at 22, something like that, that's the time to really crank the effort on, because if you're lost at 25, you're probably lost for life. And why it would be fair that if you were a nice person to go shouting at parents of fat children, because they're very likely to hit 25 being fat, and the rest of their lives they'll be fat. And there'll be nasty people like me giving them advice not to be fat. But is it me? No. But they'll get the vibe that from women's magazines, whatever it might be, or just looking at movies and people on television, that it's not given the biggest thumbs up. Right, I was going to go to this, which is from the Telegraph. I read the Telegraph first, which is the right-wing newspaper, but it doesn't take long because most all of the articles are behind a firewall, so I just check the world hasn't ended. I trust the Telegraph to tell me if the world's ended or not. And then I move on to the Guardian, which is free, the left-wing newspaper, and read the comments. But this is from the Telegraph. They let me into this and their science bit. Britain flooded with super-strength cannabis, which could be driving mental health problems. No, that's a bloody dodgy headline, but the authors often don't write the headlines. But that, Britain flooded with super-strength cannabis, okay, we'll have a look at that later, which could be driving mental health problems. It could be making people fat. See what I mean? Could be doing a lot of things. Could be... doesn't matter. Okay, nearly all cannabis on Britain's streets is now super-strength skunk. Anybody who writes that... No, let's go. Keep going. Could be fueling the rise in mental health problems, scientists have warned. Okay, so it's not just in the headline, it's in the first paragraph. It could be fueling a rise in mental health problems. That is a grotesque thing to write in a newspaper. Because it's just saying nothing. It's just, could be. I mean, it's a classic alarmist sort of thing. That's what you say. It could be. Well, could be. Researchers, diddly. Okay. The police are finding that 94% was dangerously high potency. Now, while I'm thinking of it, let me just say why it's dangerously or why it's high potency. Let's just call it weed or dope. Why is it high quality? Well, high potency dope. It's because if you get caught with an amount, you get sentenced or convicted or got at on the amount that you've got, the quantity. So if you get a quantity of very strong stuff and you get caught with it, that's different to being caught with a quantity of very weak stuff. So if you're going to import shitloads in little boats and little parcels or however you're going to get it in, you're going to do it with the very strong stuff. Ergo, the streets are full of very strong stuff. It's fucking obvious. In 2005, 51% of cannabis sold on the streets was Sinsemilla, also known as skunk. And I go, for God's sake. Sinsemilla, also known as skunk. I follow on YouTube 2 or 3 or 4 weedy people. All Americans or American-Canadian type people. 3 or 4, or most of them are now living in areas where it's legal to smoke and grow. Sinsemilla, to my thinking, is you grow dope for 2 reasons. You grow it to get the weed, or you grow it as a breeder. Now, if you grow it as a breeder, you don't want Sinsemilla because it's going to have boy bits on it. So you don't want boy bits. And for smokes, you don't want boy bits either because they're the seeds and they're whatever. So Sinsemilla to me is just a special, call it a hybrid, which grows, guaranteed to grow as a female. It's got nothing to do with skunk, but it's a very confusing subject, so maybe it does somewhere along the line. Dr. Diddly, the powerful drug placed in Britain's 2.1 million cannabis users, risk of schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, all this sort of stuff. The increase in high-potency cannabis on the streets, significant hazard, mental health. Skunk has around 14% THC and is more dangerous because it contains very small amounts of CBD. Right, do you know about THC and CBD? I don't want to do an entire video on this. THC, it's complicated. It's very complicated. Let's just say, if they're talking about medical marijuana, you want the higher CBD. If you want the really blow your brains off stuff, you want the THC. Like the one of the girls that I follow on the weedy channels on the YouTubes, it was last night or the night before, I was watching her video, and she'd just gone down to the, not pharmacy, to the dispensary to get some more. She called it a dispensary haul, and she was showing what she'd got. And there are two. This is going to turn into a weed video. You've got two, basically. You've got indicas and sativas. Indicas, and that's for all weed in the world. Two basic breeds, types. I think one came from South America and one from Far East or something. And now they're all mixed up. But basically you've got the two breeds, the sativa and the indica. The indica is your couch lock one, which kind of makes you go, hey man. And the sativa is a much higher sort of giggly sort of one. Now, she can go down to the pharmacy knowing that she doesn't like the sativa or the indica. She can go and say, I want an indica with high CBD, which is, I think, what she goes for. Or she could go for a sativa with high THC, or CBD, whatever. She can choose what she wants because she's experimented and found what she wants, and she can get exactly what type she wants that's best for her, because the different people say different things, but weed does make you a bit ooh, ooh. This is why probably these scientist people smoke it and go whoa, whoa, and think, well, it's going to drive you mad if you do too much of that. But it doesn't. It just keeps you, it might make you a bit freaky, but then you get over the freakiness, or you in America now can go down to your dispensary and find the type that doesn't make you freaky. But it doesn't, that freakiness doesn't go and get worse and worse. It's just a level of freakiness. Oh God. Basically on this, it shows that the way to go is the American way, with dispensaries where the people that want to do this sort of thing with their free will, there you go, your free will, you can choose to smoke it or not, you can choose to be fat or not, you can choose to do whatever you want with your bodies or not, using your free will. You can go down to your free will dispensary or your free will fast food outlet and do what your free willing well want. But it's good to have the choice. In the UK, the kids ain't got no choice. Oh, shame I put this up now. 13 minutes. Skip the dip. Swimming in the sea increases risk of illness, analysis suggests. You can imagine why I put that there. You know, I can see people saying, no, enough of this advice about stuff. Swimming in the sea increases your risk of illness. Okay, fine. I did want to read this. Okay. Where America, it ends up, the last comment is, it's becoming even more bizarre over there. And over there's America. Okay, so I'll just read it because I can't quite remember why I left this tab open to have a look at. Sometimes I've seen feeds of the morning news TV shows in the US, including its commercial breaks, and the amounts of adverts trying to hook people into solving all their problems by throwing pills down their throats is surprisingly numerous. Again, when I was in the States, I didn't watch much TV, but I can well imagine that you get adverts selling everything, because that's what you get, isn't it? The reply is, I saw a few ad breaks there, a combination of pushing drug-type food that'll slowly kill you, followed by adverts for drugs that combat the illness caused by this food, with an added list of a dozen ways these pills will also harm you. poor sods. That's the people who have to put up with this sort of abuse from advertisers. Have you seen the bizarre US TV ads for super strength laxatives, usually with a friendly looking elderly person rubbing their tummy in discomfort while doing a spot of gardening or looking at a family photo? The rise in this type of advertising is due to them going after the oxy addict, the OxyContin addict market, due to the 95% ! Of users who suffer from opioid-induced constipation as a result. Lovely, isn't it? And then down at the bottom, it's all becoming even more bizarre over there. What's this one? Oh, it's about pregnancy. Let's not go into that. Let's call it quits there. So, the best thing for everyone to always do is to use their free will to do what's best for fill in the blank.